Hello, I'm Desiree Skrapinski.
And I'm Ainsley Sowers, and welcome to this week's Big Blue Banter.
The Bluegrass was on fire this weekend overall, but Kentucky volleyball had a dominating weekend and are now 9-time SEC champs. The Wildcats finished the regular season out 22-2 and completed a perfect 15-0 season. The weekend started out Friday when Kentucky defeated Oklahoma 3-2 in a tight match. The Cats lost the first two sets before locking in and winning the last three. Freshman setter Cassie O'Brien took the match, beating her record of 50 assists she gained previously in the season against Alabama. She broke it this game with 54 assists against Oklahoma. But the weekend didn't end there. Sunday, Kentucky took on Arkansas and defeated them 3-0, earning the title of SEC champs and gaining their 15th conference win. The game was led by dynamic outside hitting duo Brooklyn DeLay and Eva Hudson, dominating for a combined 28 kills, as well as 6'6" middle back Lizzie Carr, who gained 7. Libero Molly Tuzzo had 12 digs and overall held the defense together. In all, the Cats dominated all weekend and will hopefully continue to this upcoming weekend at the SEC tournament in Savannah, Georgia, where they will start in the quarterfinals of the tournament.
Kentucky women's soccer came to an emotional end last week, falling 5-4 in an 8-round penalty shootout to number 6 Louisville in the first round of the 2025 NCAA Women's Soccer Championship. After a scoreless first half, the Wildcats struck first, scoring in the 47th minute with a goal from Talia Marisi. Kentucky then nearly doubled the lead, including a strong chance from Catherine Rapp that forced a diving save. Louisville tied the match in the 79th minute on a shot from Amelia Swinarski, and the game stayed even through overtime and penalties. Louisville converted in the 8th round to advance. Kentucky wraps up this season with 12 wins back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances, and this is the best overall performance from the Cats since 2014.
Kentucky men's soccer is to face off against St. Louis tonight at 8 p.m. in the opening of the NCAA tournament at Hermann Stadium in St. Louis, Missouri. You can catch the game live on ESPN.
This Kentucky men's basketball team has had a busy week, playing 2 games within 72 hours and traveling over 700 miles. Here's Jenna Lifshin with more.
Thanks, Ainsley. Last Friday, the Cats wrapped up the BBN United Tip-Off Classic with a 99-53 win over Eastern Illinois. And just 72 hours later, they were on a flight to New York City for the State Farm Champions Classic. The world's most famous arena brought together Kansas, Duke, Michigan State, and Kentucky for this year's showcase. And for the Wildcats, that meant a primetime matchup with the Spartans. But for 2 players in particular, that night was about more than the bright lights of Madison Square Garden. It was a homecoming. For Otega Owe, MSG is just a short train ride away from his hometown in Newark, New Jersey. And for junior forward Mo Diabate, the arena is only 13 miles from where he grew up in Queens. Once again, it was Colin Chandler that led the Cats offense and gave them that early lead, starting 3 for 3 and perfect from the deep. But everything shifted at the 12-minute mark. Kentucky's offense stalled, and Michigan State took full advantage and began pushing its lead substantially, led by Jackson Kohler and Trey Fort. The same shooting struggles that have haunted Kentucky all season showed up once again. The Cats shot just 27% from the field and 26% from the free in the first half. But it wasn't just the shooting that was a problem. Through the first 13 minutes, Kentucky had 0 bench points, 0 second chance points, and 0 offensive rebounds. As the half wound down, the Cats found just 1 make on 11 straight attempts, and a Spartan buzzer beater sent Kentucky into the locker room trailing 44-27. The second half opened up with both teams exchanging buckets, but Kentucky's defensive issues left no room to close the gap. Diabate brought a spark offensively, scoring 6 straight to cut the lead to 13, and he would eventually finish with 10 points in his MSG debut. But Kentucky would finally find some rhythm mid-half, hitting 5 of 6 shots and using a 7-0 run to get the score within 10. 4 straight Spartan turnovers forced Michigan State into a timeout, with the Cats down just 60-50. But the momentum didn't last. Michigan State punched back, stretching the lead to 16 and eventually 20. And with Kentucky having never completed a 20-point comeback in the last 15 seasons, the window was closing really fast. The Cats finished shooting only 35% from the field and just 23 from deep, and an 11-0 run from Michigan State would seal the 83-66 victory. Kentucky is now 6-9 all-time in the Champions Classic, including 2-3 against Michigan State. And while there's no question that this was a hard loss for the team, but more specifically for head coach Mark Pope, he took it very personally. It took him nearly an hour to come out and meet with the media after the game. Here's what he had to say.
We're far away from the team that we hope to aspire to be, and we can't waste a second on trying to grow into that. I got guys that are skilled, talented players. They care a lot, and I just haven't been able to put the pieces together quite right yet. I actually think that our identity should be if you build an organization the right way, then your identity is not about an individual person. Your identity is about a collective group. And we will build an organization where it won't be disrupted every time someone steps in and steps out, because we'll have a team identity, not an individual identity. Until we get there, we're going to really struggle. That's my job. That's why Mitch brought me here. I'm doing it poorly, and we won't do it poorly for much longer.
Kentucky now sits at 0-2 against ranked opponents this season, and in the month of December alone, the Cats are slated to face 3 ranked opponents. That doesn't even include the long-awaited renewal of the Kentucky-Indiana rivalry on December 8th. It does get slightly easier for now, though. Kentucky will see back-to-back unranked opponents in Loyola, Maryland and Tennessee Tech, and you just have to hope those matchups will give the Cats enough time to regroup before hosting number 18 North Carolina in the ACC-SEC Challenge. Both players and coaches have continued to emphasize the potential this group has, but right now it feels like Kentucky is simply running out of time to reach it. Back to you, Ainsley and Des.
And while basketball has been the talk, we're shifting over to football. Ben Hall has more from Mark Stoops' press conference previewing Vanderbilt.
Kentucky heads into this week's matchup against Vanderbilt, riding a 3-game win streak. The Wildcats are playing their best football of the season right now, and they'll look to keep that momentum rolling on the road in Nashville. Vanderbilt, led by quarterback Diego Pavia, will present some struggles for Mark Stoops and his football team. Let's see what Mark Stoops had to say about it.
He makes plays, and he does it in every game he plays in. So, for us, again, great team defense, of course, but he's going to make some plays. We just have to make ours as well.
With the win this weekend, the Wildcats will become bowl eligible with 1 game left on their schedule. Matchup this Saturday is at 3:30. I'm Ben Hall reporting from Kroger Field.
Now here is Phoenix Stevens with women's basketball.
Kentucky women's basketball won its biggest home game of non-conference play on Tuesday, beating Purdue 76-35 to sweep the home-and-home series between the two programs. The story of this one was Kentucky's stifling defense, holding Purdue to just 20% shooting from the field and 16% shooting from 3. Clara Strack and Jordan Obi had 17 points apiece, and Tony Morgan and Amelia Hassett had 11 points apiece. Next up on the schedule is the Battle of the Bluegrass, number 20 Kentucky taking on number 21 Louisville in the 502. Kentucky leads the all-time series 35-24, and last season they snapped a 7-game skid against the Cards, winning 71-61 in overtime as Kenny Brooks got his first signature win as the coach of the Cats. That one takes place Saturday at 2 p.m. on the CW Network. Desiree and Ansley, back over to you.
Thanks, Phoenix. Up next, Israel Schill and Zach Bishop will be talking some UK football and previewing a ranked matchup on the road with Vanderbilt.
Welcome back to Big Blue Banter. The Kentucky Wildcats are playing their best football of this season.
The Wildcats, on a 3-game win streak, will travel to Nashville, Tennessee to take on number 12 Vanderbilt. Here's more on the afternoon classic from the Banter Couch.
Thanks, Des. Welcome back to the Banter Couch. My name is Israel Schill. I'm joined by Zach Bishop. Kentucky football is really getting off to an interesting season right now, huh, Zach?
It sure is, Israel. Kentucky football increased their bowl chances after a 42-10 win over Tennessee Tech. Kentucky will have to win 1 out of the 2 upcoming away games to officially become bowl eligible. Here's what Mark Stoops had to say about the upcoming game against number 12 Vanderbilt.
Big opportunity here for us this week to go on the road to Vanderbilt and take on a team that's playing extremely good football. Obviously a team that's very well coached in all phases and very physical. They play the game, the right way with great energy, great emotion, and very tough, led by Clark Lee and his staff, and of course Diego Pavia. You can't say enough good things about that young man.
So obviously Vanderbilt has had a crazy program turnaround in the last 2 seasons. Clark Lee and Diego Pavia leading this Vanderbilt team to right now a playoff spot as the 12 seed in the AP poll. How do you think Kentucky's going to fare going down to Vanderbilt with a bowl chance on the line?
Well, I look back at it at, let's just say, Auburn. They lost to Auburn last year at home, and then they got their get back earlier this season on the road. I see the same way this season. They lost to Vanderbilt at home last season. Now they get a chance to go into Nashville, Tennessee, and beat the Commodores. Now, what if they don't beat the Commodores? They still have the Louisville Cardinals. Now, it is at Louisville, but again, they still have a chance to become bowl eligible, but why not just beat the Commodores now and not have to worry about the next Saturday against the Louisville Cardinals?
Definitely. I think you're right about, wanting to get it out of the way as soon as possible. I'm sure they kind of feel the same way, where if they get a win in and they can be bowl eligible, that Louisville game is going to be a little less stress on their shoulders. Saying that, Louisville, big rivalry, was ranked for a little bit throughout the season, lost their last 2 games at home, so they're going to be a little bit of an interesting matchup. I think it's going to be tough to see how Kentucky fares this weekend against against Vanderbilt in Nashville. But do you think that if it comes down to the Louisville game to get to a bowl, do you think they're going to be able to do it?
Well, no wins are guaranteed. They're going to have to do whatever they can on offense and defense to beat the Cardinals. Just because they're on a losing streak doesn't mean they can turn it right around.
Yeah, I agree. So Kentucky faces off against Vanderbilt at 3:30 on Saturday in Nashville. We're going to toss it back to Ainsley and Des at the desk.
Thanks, Izzy. Up next, Phoenix Stevens will recap everything from Kentucky high school state playoffs this past week. Welcome back to Big Blue Banter. Let's now turn our attention to the high school sports.
The high school football season is in its 3rd round of playoffs. Phoenix Stevens has a preview of the matchups.
We get things started with Rowell at Frederick Douglass. Both teams are on a hot streak. Douglass has won 8 of their last 9 games, and Rowell has won 7 straight. The winner of that one takes on the winner of Trinity and Madison Central. Moving on, speaking of which, that's our next matchup to preview. Trinity is looking to win their 3rd consecutive Class 6A state championship, but a tough Madison Central squad stands in the way. The Indians have won 4 of their last 5 games, and they'll look to make it 5 of their last 6 on Friday. Perhaps the best matchup of the weekend is Scott County at Woodford County. These 2 teams put on a high-scoring thriller just over a month ago, a 57-50 win for the Yellow Jackets. Hopefully, we get another instant classic from those 2 5A powerhouses. Staying in Class 5A, Pulaski County plays host to West Jessamine, who has won 6 straight games heading into Friday night. The Maroons have won 6 straight as well, so we'll see who can keep their momentum going into the 4th round. Franklin County is a perfect 12-0 this season, but they'll put that record on the line this weekend when they take on the Mustangs of North Oldham. North Oldham's only lost 2 games this season, so that's a game I'm looking at for a potential upset. Boyle County is looking to get revenge on Covcath, who beat them 31-28 in last year's playoffs in one of the bigger upsets of the year. The Rebels ride into this one with just 1 loss on the year, and they're going to want to keep it that way this week. And who handed Boyle County that 1 loss, you may ask? That would be Lexington Catholic, who has won 7 straight games heading into this week's game at Murray. Murray is actually undefeated, so their perfect record will also be in jeopardy. Since losing to Paducah Tillman earlier in the season, Mayfield has won 8 straight games, but they have to go on the road and take on LCA. The Eagles have also won 8 in a row. This should be a really good game over in Class 2A. And then lastly, we take a look at Class 1A, where Raceland looks to get back to the state title game for the 5th year in a row. But first, they host Paris, who they beat 55-7 earlier in the season. Maybe things will be more competitive this time around. That's it for this week. I'm going to send it back over to our friends over at the anchor desk.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Big Blue Banter.
We'll be off next week for Thanksgiving break, and after that, we'll be back for our final episode of the semester. Happy Thanksgiving, BBN!